Hi, it's Colleen and welcome to the WOW channel. As part of the April challenge called Colors of the Sea, I'm going to show you how to create a playful distressed background using a combination of WOW Fab Foils, the embossing powders, and an abstract embossing folder. Let's get started. So WOW has a line of foils that are called Fab Foils. And they work in a similar way as the other brands of foils that you've seen on the market. They come in a variety of colors, which are really gorgeous. But what I like about these foils is when you combine them with a few other tools, you can create a really cool distressed look to your cards. So we're going to be working with this and bonding powder, our sticky embossing pad, and a brayer to create that look. So the supplies we're going to use today is iced blue and teal Fab Foils because we are going with the colors of the sea. The bonding powder that we're going to need, we're going with an embossing powder called Primary Lagoon. I chose a stamp from Altenew called Fairy Tale Florals because I just wanted to add a floral element to my card. And this is a really simple and yet beautiful stamp. And then we're going to use an embossing folder by Altenew called Organic Linen. Look at how gorgeous and abstract that is. And you're also going to need your brayer to do this technique. Step number one is to create an ink blended background. And I'm using Catherine Pooler's Cummerbund. I am not going for a well blended look here. I'm looking for a distressed look. So I'm just trying to get some coverage using that ink. And I think the color is really pretty for the Colors of the Sea theme. Now that that's done, I'm going to take my Altenew Organic Linen embossing folder and I'm going to emboss that card panel. And that's what it looks like. So step one is done. The next step is going to be to work on the foiling. So I'm taking my embossing pad and I'm conditioning it with the Embossing Ink Pad Refill Conditioner. That's going to get that pad nice and juicy for the technique we're going to use today. You're going to need lots of that. Now I'm taking my brayer and I'm going to swipe right over that sticky pad and apply it very lightly to the card panel. I only want the parts that are lifted, the higher parts of the embossed image, to have the foil on it. And this brayer is a really great method to get the ink where you want it. Now I'm going to add the bonding powder over the embossed image. Now all the bonding powder does is allows you to add your foil. So we're going to heat it and then we're going to add the foil. So what you see me doing here is I am getting my foil ready before I heat that bonding powder because you want to add the foil while the bonding powder is still warm, similar to when you run it through your minks or your laminator. That heat is what's going to help that foil adhere. So I'm going to get my foil ready and then I'm going to heat it. So now I'm going to heat the bonding powder, and as soon as I'm done heating it, I'm going to add that foil. And I'm taking my finger and pressing down hard until I feel it cool off. And now look, it's adhering. Isn't that cool? So I'm breaking it down into little bits and pieces. So I'm going to heat a little bit of it up, and then I'm going to go back in with my foil and add more foil. That way I know that the bonding powder is still hot enough from my heat gun to allow that foil to adhere. And again, taking it with my finger and running it over. The color is face up. So make sure your color is face up, and then you see it goes right through and sticks to the bonding powder. Now this won't work unless your bonding powder is hot. So make sure you use it when it's hot. And I'm going to continue to do this until I get coverage on the background. I'm going for a distressed look, so I'm not concerned about full coverage on my card panel. I want this to look abstract and distressed. And that's what I love about using the bonding powder along with these little pieces of Fab Foil. You really get a cool distressed look if that's what you want. Isn't that gorgeous? Now I'm going to go in with the Primary Lemon embossing powder, and I'm also using my embossing ink pad refill and conditioner, and I'm just putting some lines on the paper, and then I'm going to be adding the embossing powder, and I'm going to heat it. And it looks cool when it's been heated over the foil. Can you see that? Look. So cool. So now that my card panel is done, I'm going to work on my flowers because I'm going to foil the flowers as well. The first step to doing that is to put my flowers on the card panel, which is a 5.5 by 4.25 size card panel. And then I'm going to take my sticky embossing pad and I'm going to emboss it. But once again, like I did before, I'm getting that foil ready before I heat emboss it so that while that bonding powder is still hot, I can add that foil very quickly before it cools. Now I'm going to go over this a couple times to make sure I've got full coverage because I want these flowers to have full coverage of the foil. So I'm going to go over this with my sticky embossing pad a couple times to make sure that I get good coverage. Now I'm going back in like I did with the background panel and I'm adding the bonding powder. And you can't see that here because it's white. But I'm going to heat it with my heat gun and then I'm going to slap that foil on there quickly and you'll see what it looks like in just a minute. Now I don't have my Wow heat tool, but I do recommend that you use that because it has 2 settings and it heats everything very, very quickly, which is really what you want when you're working with embossing powders. Now you see I'm ready, all ready to get that foil on there while it's still hot. And I run my fingers over it until I can feel that it's cool to the touch. And when it's cool to the touch, then it's safe to remove that foil. And then you see, ta-da! That gorgeousness. Look at how gorgeous that is. Now here's my floral already done. I added a little more color and I die cut it. And now I'm ready to put my card panel together. So all I'm doing is I'm going to adhere that distressed background panel onto an A2 size card base, which is 5.5 by 4.25. And then I'm going to add the flower over that card base. I really don't want to do too much here because I want that background to stand out. And the cool thing about these backgrounds is that you can make several of them in one sitting and have them ready for whenever you want it. So here's my finished card. Can you see all of that shine and the color? And I made a second card here to show you how cool it looks just by itself. So here I actually used the Wow Mixed Media embossing brush to add the embossing powder. And I also used Blue Tang regular blue embossing powder along with that yellow embossing powder. And then I also heated up and foiled the Betting on You sentiment. I'm so glad you stopped by today and I hope you join us for the challenge. You can join on Instagram or on Facebook and remember to use the hashtag #WowEmbossingChallenge when you enter so we can find your glorious creations. And remember, there's a winner at the end of the month. Good luck!